Guys, we got a problem. I mean, we're heading towards a holiday season where games are coming out on top of other games on top of other games. And a lot of this is because there is a massive release in November. However, I still think there is a very interesting twist that could happen here with Grand Theft Auto 6 not being the only massive release in November, which we'll get to. But I was making a list of all the games that were coming up here, and it's kind of ridiculous just looking at it here. And that's what we're going to do here today. So if you guys enjoy the video, hit the like button, subscribe if you're new. So let's start here. Here, this is just, again, list of games in order of release. And then I also tried to separate as best I could based on the week of that month. Okay, now, of course, some months run into the next one. So, like, you'll have, in terms of July, like the 28th, then running into, like, that week. But the idea here is to at least give you an idea as to when we have several games coming out all at once. And again, a lot of this has to do, yes, with many publishers avoiding November. So what do? They try to get their game out before that massive amount of money gets moved over to GTA 6 from just the overall pie with the consumer spending. But I went ahead and started with July here. So I'm skipping the last couple of weeks in June. But for July, Rhythm Heaven Groove. Then the following week, Assassin's Creed Black Flag Resynced, Backyard Baseball, which I got to drop Backyard Baseball in there. One of the kids is really excited about it. And I remember that from way back in the day on the PC, actually. So I saw that pop up. I was like, that's a fun nostalgia trip, and it'll actually be fun to play with the kids. So, okay, I got that down on the calendar. And then College Football 27, very, very popular, obviously, and it should sell very well. But that's all in the same day. I was like, wow, okay, well, Assassin's Creed is like, I'm going to be getting that one and playing through it. But then you can see after that, a little bit of a break. July 23rd, though, Avatar Legends and Splatoon Raiders. I'm interested in Splatoon Raiders. It's like the single player, more single player focused versus the almost arena shooter like paint game with Splatoon. I'm curious to see how that turns out. And then obviously Halo Campaign Evolved on July 28th. I'm there day one. I think it's looking pretty good. So good news there. But that's just July. We go into August. Okay. Beast of Reincarnation. That is the Game Freak title. That'll also be in Game Pass. So if you have Game Pass, it'll be one of those things where if you see it, you're like, oh, okay, I'll give it a try. It looks interesting, but also at times it kind of blends in with other similar style games. So I don't know. I'll give it a try either way. Big Walk. I'm still not really sure what that one is. So it's House. It's gonna be strange, just the way it looks. So I don't know. I'll check out reviews. We'll see what people say about that one. And then Marvel Tokon Fighting Souls. A lot of fighting game fans very, very excited for that one. It looks really cool in motion. I will say that. I think it'll do really well at a lot of the big tournaments that take place, because if a game looks good in motion and is fun to watch, it tends to be very popular in that sense for streaming games. Okay, then we go to the following week, Madden NFL 27, Grave Seasons, and then closing out August is where ridiculousness happens. Okay, so same day, Metal Gear Solid Master Collection Volume 2, which I have to pick it up. Metal Gear Solid 4 is on there. That is the first time we've seen it away from the PlayStation 3. And then we have Resonance, A Plague Tale Legacy, Star Wars Zero Company. It's a game that's kind of similar to the idea of XCOM, but in Star Wars. So the team behind it is pretty talented. So I think it's going to be a good game. And then there's Elden Ring Tarnished Edition the following day. I've played enough Elden Ring. I'm just ready to see the other game with FromSoft. So we'll get to that in a moment here. Let's scroll down because we can get into September, and this is where things just go off the rails. So September, it starts off September 3rd, The Blood of Dawnwalker, and then Orbitals. Just based on the pedigree of the developers behind The Blood of Dawnwalker, I'm interested. So the trailer they showed recently, I don't know if it showed that well. But again, just based on a lot of the stuff going on with this game and the development team, I'm curious about it. And then Orbitals, I think will be a lot of fun. Again, one of the kids getting old enough now to play some of these co-op games like Split Fiction. And I like the retro anime aesthetic here for Orbitals. So I'll be picking that one up. And also, it's fully on the cartridge for the Switch too. So I don't have to go, game key card. No, it's all there. Okay, so we've moved to the following week. Marvel's Wolverine, RuneScape Dragon Wilds, Fire Emblem Fortune's Weave, Trails in the Sky second chapter, and then there's Warhammer 40K or 40,000 Dawn of War 4. Not really my kind of game, but we really have to have Trails in the Sky second chapter and Fire Emblem on the same day, 2 days after Marvel's Wolverine comes out. Like those are 3 games that I want to pick up. RuneScape, I already mentioned I'm not like a big RuneScape person. I thought it was just interesting that it popped up in general. Like, oh, RuneScape's back. Okay, there you go. Then we have the following week, Dune Awakening, and then we go into a gauntlet of releases. I mean, in the span of 2 days. Control Resonant, Silent Hill Townfall, Harvest Moon Echoes of Terradia, but then Hot Wheels Infinite Rush, and Onimusha Way of the Sword. I want Control, I want Silent Hill, I want Onimusha. Like, this is what I mean. It's kind of crazy just how many games are just like stacked on top of each other now with this. All right. And then Minecraft Dungeons 2 is down there at the bottom, September 29th. And we move into October. Dynasty Warriors 3 Remastered, Rayman Legends Retold, End of Abyss, Ace Combat 8, Wings of Thieves. I do enjoy Ace Combat games. I will be picking up Ace Combat 8. But then following week, right, Gears of War E-Day, Star Wars Galactic Racer, which I actually think so far from what they've shown looks like a lot of fun. So I'm curious because they showed a lot of cutscenes for that game. So it almost seems like it's more story-driven than I was expecting. I do wonder about the idea of customizing your pods, like your racers, or maybe having some kind of progression system where they get faster over time, or you can do little tune-ups here and there, and upgrades. But then you also have Dragon's Dogma 2 Dark Arisen. That is also going to the Switch 2 there. But the update itself is adding more and apparently more optimizations as well. And then, of course, extra content. Now, October 12th has Valor Mortis. That was supposed to come out in September. And they decided, oh, instead of releasing in the last week of September, let's push it into October, only to end up in the same week, which it's probably not as big of a deal, but Castlevania Belmont's Curse, that is not a full price game. I think that game was like $30 or $40. So that makes it a little easier here. But then Toy Story 3 Complete Edition and Toy Story Retro Roundup on the same day. And I think that's going to be a really fun collection. Toy Story 3 is kind of slept on a bit, and it has like that toy box mode. I admittedly was not like super into that or anything when it came out back in the day, but the Retro Roundup is tapping into nostalgia that I had renting like the old school Sega Genesis Toy Story game from way back in the day. I mean, that was okay, I say that now, I'll fire it up and be like, man, this really was what we were playing back then. But just from the nostalgia factor, and there will be some, I think, interest in Toy Story over the summer because of the new Toy Story movie. So that'll be a lot of fun, I feel like, to get and then show the kids and be like, this is, back in my day, this is what we played. And we had no choice because we rented it for the weekend and that was the one game, so we played it no matter what. That we do have Tales of Eternia Remastered as well that week. Okay, the following week, Final Fantasy Resonance, which looks awesome. Nintendo Switch Sports Resort, which is Switch Sports. We've seen this over and over again. Bowling still fun, great. They spent a lot of time showing thumb wrestling. I'm sure it'll be a fun game you can kind of play with some friends or family or at like a party setting. But then we have Call of Duty Modern Warfare 4. I like what they've been showing with this game, or at least saying about the game, where they're trying to be more serious and not have Beavis and Butthead and I don't know, Michelangelo from Ninja Turtles riding around on a skateboard while we're trying to do like a military shooter. So if they do stick to that and don't fall down that rabbit hole of having Seth Rogen run an entire Gummies-based expansion, okay, I'll be paying attention, listening, and checking out. Also, the campaign I think is going to be pretty good. So, okay, can't be any worse than the last one. Look at it that way. Then Phantom Blade Zero, which looks great. Every time they show it, it looks more and more intriguing just based on the creativity, especially around some of the bosses. That one, though, got delayed out of September into October. And you know what? I think it's landed in a pretty good spot because it's right between, as you can see here, a bunch of October games and then just ahead of Grand Theft Auto 6, but it's right next to Hello Kitty Party Land. So they rolled the dice on it. We'll see how that works out for them. Into November, we have Godzilla Destroy All Monsters Melee Remastered. That's a game that I'm picking up. Yes, very nostalgia driven. I have it here on the GameCube actually, and is a very fun game back then. Still fun now. Okay, this one being remade. I think they call it remaster, but it's being put into Unreal Engine 5. Although it might be that situation where they overlay Unreal Engine on the old game. I'm not really sure. We'll see more of the technical details as we get closer to release. But I'll be picking that one up. That's an easy buy. All right. And then we have November 12th, Barbie Rewind. I think it's a collection of older Barbie games. They don't care about Grand Theft Auto 6. Godzilla and Barbie, they got no problem. And then Metaphor ReFantazio, the Switch 2 version specifically. But then we run right into Grand Theft Auto 6. So there is still a lot of room in November for a company to come in and go, you know what? We will go ahead and make this move, and we're going to release around Grand Theft Auto 6. And I think there is at least one game that will do that. And yes, it's Nintendo. And so we still have some games down here that need release dates. Okay. You can see Ocarina of Time, the Duskbloods, and then there's also Bloodstained, the Scarlet Engagement. They still are saying 2026, but there's no release date. That one maybe does get delayed, although they could also come back, and I think there's a spot for them. Although I don't know what day Halloween is on this year. Halloween is Saturday. Maybe they could do it on the 30th and just release on a Friday, or release on that Wednesday. Basically, I'm saying there's a spot, I think, around Halloween. Yeah, they could release on like a Tuesday or a Wednesday, the 27th or the 28th, and I think that would work for them. But I also think there's another game that might attempt this. However, Ocarina of Time, I actually think is going to release in November, and I think they're going to do it the week before Grand Theft Auto 6. If I had to put a date on it, I guess November 12th. It'd put it next to Metaphor, but that's the Switch 2 version. It's whatever. Something that I think would be kind of interesting is if Nintendo said, you know what? November 19th, just Grand Theft Auto 6 and Ocarina of Time the same day. Will they do that? Probably not. I guess there's also a spot open if they want to release Ocarina of Time on November 5th. Like that's Thursday. It's right there. They could absolutely do it. And then the Duskbloods. You know, the Duskbloods, based on what happened with Elden Ring, and I know that's a port to the Switch 2, whereas the Duskbloods is being built up as an original game being made in collaboration with Nintendo and FromSoft for the Switch 2. It wouldn't shock me if that got pushed to 2027. All right. Like if they came out and said, nope, it's coming out later, I'd be like, okay. But they are doing a network test, and I don't think you just do a network test and then go, next year. I feel like the network test is literally for them just kind of stressing and checking things out just before launch. And if that's happening by the end of the summer, the Duskbloods probably could come out. And I almost wonder if they would try to fit it somewhere in October. Like, I guess they could. The other thing, though, so here's October. The other thing is December is open. Like, they could drop the Duskbloods in the first week of December. And Nintendo's done that with big games that they release. Say, like, I don't know, the Xenoblade Chronicles 2 was a December release. Smash Brothers was a December release. There's probably others. Those are just ones that come to mind. I could see the Duskbloods sneaking in to 2026 right at the end. Otherwise, I mean, you look at the Duskbloods, feels kind of like it would fit in with a Halloween time period release. And maybe they just drop it in here with Phantom Blade Zero and Hello Kitty Party Land. Again, that's what we're running into. It's such a packed September and October. It's getting difficult to play some of these games like a Duskbloods because it's going to overrun many other games. But that is just, it's where we are right now. It's so packed with games. And I figured, as many others did, this was going to happen after Summer Game Fest, after the Xbox Showcase, after we saw Nintendo show up with their Direct, and we're still waiting for Ocarina of Time to get dated. It's going to get crowded, and it has. So we're going to be very picky, obviously, because even if you had, let's say you had the ability, the money, you're just going to buy everything. There's only so much time in the day. So it really is going to come down to picking and choosing some games to play this year and then waiting for next year or years down the line. I'm thinking there's going to be many of these games that are just backlogged maybe forever. I don't know. But I guess the nice thing is you can then also pick and choose some games that you come back to later on when they're on sale. But wow, what a run here for the second half of 2026. There's no shortage of games to play. But let me know what you guys think about this down below, with how out of control the release schedule has become now after this summer showcase run that we've had, and let me know which games are at the top of your list to be picking up. Thanks guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.